opioid crisis is an emergency, and I'm saying officially right now it is an emergency. It's a national emergency. We're going to draw it up, and we're going to make it a national emergency. Effective today, my administration is officially declaring the opioid crisis a national public health emergency under federal law.
It's not just a question of semantics between national emergency and public health emergency. The difference carries a real impact in the amount of speed of federal funding. Welcome back to Morning Joe. It is Friday, October 27th. Donnie Deutsch is still with us.
Governor Christie requested I be here, but
oh,
of course I did.
Yeah, I don't think so.
He brings a real sense of class to the whole operation.
Classes up the joint,
He
Donnie.
really does.
You and I together brings it a whole lot.
Raises the level, baby. Absolutely.
White House reporter for USA Today, Heidi Przybyla, actually raises the level, raises the bar. Join the conversation, Republican Governor Chris Christie of New Jersey. He's the leader of the White House Opiate Task Force.
All right, so this, Governor, was obviously a serious issue for you. You talked about it.
I think one of your best speeches in the campaign was in New Hampshire on this issue.
Perhaps
incredibly moving.
Yeah, perhaps the best speech in the campaign.
Of the entire campaign.
But we all knew when my son went to school, there were good kids from good families that weren't, whose dads spent college getting drunk and driving their car into a ditch. And instead, when they made a mistake, it might have been with their parents, opioids, and they went to sleep and didn't wake up.
Yep.
And that touched the lives of 5 people that my son and our family knew when he was at Alabama like 5 or 6 years ago. And I remember thinking,
what's going on?
What the hell is going on?
What's going on?
This is going on still, and it's worse.
Well, listen, it's 175 people a day in the United States die of a drug overdose. Right now, 175 people a day. We have a 9/11 every 2.5 weeks. And so, when I've had some people who are in my party argue with me about what do you spend on this, what I say to them is, if we had a terrorist attack every day that killed 175 Americans, how much would you spend to make it stop? And that's what's happening. It's a murder of our people from within, and we have to go after and stop it.
How did this start? Heroin. Remember when we were growing up, heroin is what people on the outskirts of society in the worst parts of New York City did, and that was supposed to be taken care of, and drugs got lighter, and kids were just smoking pot and la la la. And now, boom, heroin. When I say just, that's not how I feel about smoking pot. Don't even get me started on the legalization of it. I just got now my son and all my friends are gonna be angry at me.
Totally opposed. I'm with you, Joe.
But how did we jump to heroin?
I'll tell you how it started. It started in doctors' offices and hospitals and pharmaceutical companies all over this country. We consume 85% of the world's prescription opiates. 85%, we're 4% of the world's population. This is an epidemic here that was started by our physicians, by our hospitals, by our pharmaceutical companies, and that's what happened. And the fact is, if we don't get at that root of it, think about this: 4 out of every 5 heroin addicts today in America started on prescription opioids.
So, Governor, let me ask you a question based on that. And first of all, I've taken my shots over the years. I have to congratulate you. This is an amazing cause, and I think an amazing part of your legacy. And I also have to congratulate the president, who yesterday I thought one of his most compelling speeches, tremendously human, self-effacing, and I congratulate him also. So, to your point, we've got to start with the doctors. It's not the addiction treatment. So what do you do? What's the game plan right now? Right now, you are the drug czar, and I go, and we have to start with the dealers, for lack of a better word. So what do you do?
Sure. Well, we've recommended to the president that they now require a couple of different things. Every medical school in America, you need to have our training for our doctors include opioid addiction, how to deal with addiction, how to prevent addiction. Secondly, we have the DEA giving out licenses to write these prescriptions and renewing them. And there's no requirement for continuing medical education on opioid addiction and how to deal with this. Third, our doctors are not being trained on medication-assisted treatment once people are addicted.
Yeah.
And so you have a lack of training up at the front end, a lack of ongoing training, and then a lack of training and treatment once people get addicted. That's 0 for 3, Donnie, and you can't do that, and that's why we're in the situation that we're in.
Can I ask you one question, because it's very interesting. And, you know, I brought up marijuana, and, you know, talked about, you know, my son, libertarian, other younger people,
State of Colorado.
libertarian. The Republican Party, the majority of the Republican Party, again, sort of libertarian. It's okay. So, you know, William F. Buckley was talking about legalizing marijuana a long time ago. I talked to an educator this past week. I said, what are you the most worried about? He goes, I'm worried about two things. He goes, I'm worried about smartphones because they're rewiring children's mind.
Yep.
And I'm worried about the legalization of marijuana. I said, why? And he said, because the opioid crisis started when kids started taking their parents' opioids.
Yep.
That's how it started in high school and colleges. I fear that the legalization of marijuana across the country will do the same thing. The parents buy the marijuana, and 12, 13, 14-year-old kids start smoking it. And at that age, it rewires the brain. What do you say to the libertarians who are going to kill me the rest of the day for even daring to bring up, and a lot of people here that work here will kill me for the rest of the day. But educators are saying, same thing that happened with opioids is going to happen with marijuana. It doesn't kill you.
But it
We
opens
understand,
the door.
but it can rewire the brain.
It can. And secondly, the National Institutes of Health, no partisan organization, just came out with a report that said you're 2.5 times more likely to be an opiate addict if you smoke marijuana or ingest marijuana in any way. 2.5 times more likely.
I'm sorry, who said that?
National Institutes of Health.
Okay.
Okay, so we're not talking about a Republican or a Democrat, libertarian, liberal organization. We're talking about guys who call it as they see it. They're the umpires of health in this country.
And by the way,
and they're saying it. It's wrong, Joe. And I'll tell you why we should stop it. Because it is going to make this country more medicated. We don't need to be more medicated.
I agree.
Well, and you know, the problem also is, and I don't want anybody to think that I am comparing opioids to marijuana. I'm saying, though, also, when you have more and more Americans, I mean, the numbers are staggering, that are on drugs for psychiatric needs, and you start mixing those with possibly opioids or a heavy dose of marijuana, suddenly you are talking about the over-medication of America, and suddenly something that should be cool and sort of I'm okay, you're okay, gets thrown into this toxic brew that just causes me a real concern.
Just seems like we're already barreling down the hill. The snowball is already barreling down the hill, and I just wonder, Governor, what does what the president did yesterday create meaningfully that wasn't already underway? And then secondly, what kind of accountability is there? Because I think this expires within, is it 60 to 90 days?
It's 90.
Yeah, so what kind of follow-up is there going to be so what's new, and then what kind of follow-up to make sure that this goes somewhere?
Last first, I think you'll see it renewed over and over again in 90-day periods. It's just the way the statute is, and so I think you'll also see the president continue to renew it. On what's new, one of the big things that hasn't been talked about a lot yesterday was he talked about giving waivers to the IMD rule. What that says is, if you have an institution in any one of our states that has more than 17 beds in it, and you're giving drug treatment, Medicaid won't pay. Based upon an old 1960s rule that said that's a psychiatric hospital, Medicaid won't pay. There are thousands of empty treatment beds that are not being used right now because of that Medicaid rule. That was the second recommendation we made in the interim report. He said yesterday he's ordering the waiver of that rule. Let me tell you what it'll do in my state. It will open up immediately, not having to build them, but open existing treatment beds to the poor in the hundreds. And it will do that in every state across the country. So that was something new that he announced yesterday that will mean a significant influx of federal money to the states for the states to match.
But you know, some of the criticism is
really
that in
good.
his budget, the president cuts Medicaid. So how do you square those two?
Well, listen, I think that initial proposal was part of the ACA changes and all the rest of that. The fact is, I've spoken to him. He knows that this is an area where we have to invest, that we have to spend money in this area, because if we don't, we're not going to get the people who are addicted. And I think yesterday he made a real key point in his speech when he said that it's not just about preventing, which he talked about, which is important, but he also said there are millions of addicted people and we have no choice but to treat them. We have no choice but to help them. The president made some very important statements yesterday that, let me say this, no president in my lifetime on this issue has said. He gave compassion yesterday and hope to those families that are suffering right now with people who are addicted, let alone the people who've already lost family members.
Is he going to get the money to do what he needs to? I mean,
listen.
because there were complaints yesterday, from what I saw, that already talked about it, but they were just words. That the USA Today, Heidi's paper, opioid survivors seek more money.
Right, and I think that will come. That's Congress's job, though, Joe. That's going to be in this budget cycle. They're going to have to decide how much money they're going to put in this. Remember
will this Republican Congress fund it the way it needs to be funded?
I believe they will, because I don't think this is a partisan issue.
What do you think?
Well, listen, it's going to be billions of dollars that need to be spent, billions. And let's remember this: in the ACA bill, the Graham Cassidy bill that didn't pass, they had a portion of $45 billion.
Oh, wow.
For opioid treatment.
Okay.
So Congress is serious about this. And the one thing that's interesting, the commission held a meeting with members of Congress, and we invited anybody who wanted to come to meet with us. There were more Democrats in that room than Republicans, but only by about 3 or 4. This was a broad swath, Republicans, regardless of region, Democrats, regardless of ideology. We had, Maxine Waters sitting next to Rob Portman at that meeting.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a lot of meetings on the Hill right now where Maxine Waters is hanging with Rob Portman. But in our meeting,
But
they
this
were.
was, but
That's
this
awesome.
was
To that
bipartisan.
point, before we're going to get to it's believe it or
Both
not,
nice.
the 5-year anniversary
Yes.
of Sandy, which you've been very Herculean at. We've got a very interesting state of the Republican Party. I'd like you to complete the sentence. I am proud to be a Republican because.
Sure.
I'm proud to be a Republican because we still believe in the idea that government is not the solution to every problem, and that the American
It doesn't
people,
seem to be the raison d'etre of the party, though.
Well, yes, me. I mean, that's why I'm proud to be a Republican. I can't speak for everybody else out there, Donnie. But what I would say to you is, I'm still proud of the idea of being a Republican, because I still think we believe in the idea that the American people are the ultimate solution to a lot of these problems, and that government should be there to help, but not to solve every problem. That's why I'm proud to be a
So
Republican.
can I give you a much quicker answer? I am proud to be a Republican because fill in the blank, because Joe Scarborough is no longer a member of my party. Much faster.
I was giving you the hanging curveball, man.
You had it on the tip of your tongue.
It
I
cuts
know it.
through, and
No,
by
you
the
don't.
way, it has universal appeal.
It does have universal appeal, but not to me, Joe. I've always been an outlier. I've always been an outlier. I want you back, Joe. I want you to come
God.
back.
Cue the
Come back to
I want
the
you
back to the
back.
motherland, Joe.
sick.
Please.
Get sick going.
Come back to home.
By the way, so we're going to show some poll numbers you aren't going to like, and in part just
That's
because
okay. I'm not running for anything. I don't care.
every time you come on the show, if we have any civil conversation with you, we're bashed for the next 12 days. How could you let him off the hook? So,
Yeah.
does it hurt you that your poll numbers are at 3% in New Jersey?
Yeah, they're not at 3%.
I know, but I'm trying to over.
Yeah, I don't give a
shoot the
damn.
mark.
I'm not running for anything.
All right,
It's very liberating.
So listen here. So I do want to talk about. Many people thought you did a great job on Sandy, especially in the years after.
You're not going to talk about
Sandy.
this Monmouth poll, are you?
Yeah, I am.
I wanna ask
well, let me
you-
hold on, Joe. Let me just say this about the Monmouth poll.
Let me get it out
Lord.
first,
All right, go
and then you talk. You actually, a lot of people thought you hurt your political career because you actually hugged Barack Obama, because you did what I'm saying the governor of Puerto Rico has
You're a
to do.
hugger.
Even
I'm
if
a lover.
even
Know
if
that.
even if Donald Trump is treating Puerto Rico bad, I say it's still the governor's job to be positive, because that's the guy that brings in the money. Whether you like him or not, attack him later
mayor of
in your
San Juan,
memoir. And the
absolutely,
mayor of
both of
San
them.
Juan. All right, so, but anyway, this Monmouth poll, are you satisfied or dissatisfied with Sandy recovery efforts so far? Very satisfied, 9. Somewhat satisfied, 35. So you've got 44% saying they're satisfied, somewhat dissatisfied, 26, and about a third very dissatisfied. The numbers have changed a good bit since 2013. Do you think that just tacks along with your personal approval rating?
No, in fact, when you read the poll, what he says is, the pollster says, this is not a scientifically significant survey. So thanks for publishing it.
Can
Who
I
gives
ask
a
a
damn?
question
I mean,
about
seriously, let me tell you this.
What was the
Joe,
sample?
365,000 homes damaged or destroyed
432.
in Sandy, 1,200 families left to go back. Now, in 5 years to go from 365,000 to 1,200 is a pace that outstrips New York,
Right.
outstrips Louisiana, Mississippi, and we're proud of it. Now, I won't be completely satisfied until those 1,200 people are back.
So we know in any storm, there are people that are still hurting out there.
Yep.
So What do you need to do? What do you want to do before you leave the governor's office to help those people, the third that are dissatisfied?
Get that 1,200 families that aren't in, as many of them
Get
back in as
everybody
we
back
can.
home, yeah.
Second, for all those families, by the way, they are still to this day receiving rental assistance from the state of New Jersey to help to pay their rent while they're not in their homes and help to pay their mortgages.
Right.
They're still getting mental health treatment from the state of New Jersey for any type of mental health problems that persist because of the pain they've gone through for Sandy. So we're still there every step of the way with these folks. But listen, if it were me and mine wasn't back in my home yet,
yeah,
I'd be very dissatisfied. But if you go from 365,000 to 1,200, that's probably a pretty good result from any government.
How concerned are you about Puerto Rico and the recovery in Puerto Rico? It seems to be going at a slower clip.
Really
than it needs
concerned.
to.
Really concerned. And I think the biggest reason for that is that Puerto Rico was in such tough shape before the storm came. Right? We have an island that was nearly bankrupt, or functionally bankrupt at that time. Their infrastructure they hadn't invested in a long time. So when a destructive storm comes into something like that, you're now working literally from ground zero. Where when New Jersey,
by the way, you're not blaming the people of Puerto Rico.
no, it's just the state of just the state of what happened over from Republican and Democratic governors over 50 years.
And by the
there.
way, we just do have to tell our viewers that if you didn't focus on Puerto Rico before the disaster there, it's something that you heard policymakers sort of rubbing their hands about, wringing their hands about for years. The bankruptcy,
Yeah.
Puerto Ricans telling us all the time, oh, the situation is so bad down
Really
here.
bad, and the fact is that
So it makes the tragedy even greater.
and it makes the recovery even worse. I've been talking to, we sent more people to Puerto Rico than any state in the country. We've sent 1,100 National Guard and state police to Puerto Rico. Some of them have started to come back. They're doing 2-week tours. And when they've come back, they've said the problem is, logistically, they have all these supplies at the port, more than they know what to do with. The roads in Puerto Rico have been so washed out and destroyed that until they rebuild the roads, they have to airlift stuff to people in different parts of the island that are outside of San Juan. So that infrastructure is a problem.
You were able to talk about all these things without any type of bad tone to it. And I now ask you about Trump, because a lot of people feel that he was really insensitive toward Puerto Rico, and even his trips there were kind of optically disastrous. You're really good at getting the truth out there, going there, having the real conversation. Senator Flake, Bob Corker had really tough words for the president and for the state of things, the state of the discourse over the
Ugly
past
discourse.
week. Do you think it would be productive if more sitting senators and congressmen went there and spoke to what they really are seeing
What I think would be more productive
with this president?
Yeah, what I think would be more productive is they just got their job done.
Yeah, but
I mean, but
How can you get your job done if you say
what if
the
the president just gets his job done? What if the president would just get his job done?
By the way,
and
if you
stop
asked that
tweeting?
question, I would have said the
tweeting.
same thing. I've said over and over again that this is a time in our history when we have enormous possibility to get things done that current Republicans like myself and former Republicans like you have been talking about for decades. Right? And so the discouraging thing to me is that this stuff is not getting done. And you can find plenty of blame around Washington for lots of different people doing that. I will tell you this, I've always been somebody who's kind of called it the way I've seen it. And also said to folks, when I thought they were jerks, I told them that too.
And then continue working.
But you continue to work. And in the end, that's both sides have to do that, on the Capitol Hill and in the White House. And as I've said, I think part of what's gone on here is an education of somebody, meaning the president, who spent his life in the New York real estate market. Many of us interacted with him for years, I for 15 years, right? This is a different world. And you got to understand how to operate in this different world. And I think yesterday, you saw the president speak in a way about this opiate issue that will bring people together. And I hope that that extends to other things as well. But I think the reason he did was because he personally really cares about this issue. And I thought yesterday you saw more of the personal Donald Trump that we know is there than before.
All right.
I did.
So very good. So before you go, I've got to ask you a couple questions that Mika's going to absolutely hate, and I'm sure your haters are going to hate as well.
Okay.
But I really want to talk about one of the best MLB postseasons we've seen in a very long time. Let me start, though, with the news, though.
Morning Joe.
The Daily News talks about Morning Joe, but they're talking about Joe Girardi.
Yeah, Joe.
After all this guy has done, for the Yankees, and by the way,
I gotta tell my
I
dog.
think I'm with you. I hate the Yankees.
Yeah, of course.
I hate everything
They're the
about
evil
them.
empire.
I hate the evil empire.
The evil empire.
Right?
You gotta love this.
Mets fans and Red Sox fans united.
But you know what, though? When I saw Girardi, I said, can't hate him. He's like Jeter. Can't
Yeah.
hate him that
No,
much.
he's a
That
good
is
guy.
a good guy. He's a leader. I thought they treated him badly.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And let me tell you something. I don't know who the great manager is they think they're bringing in there.
Who's going to be better than
I don't know who's
Girardi?
lining
Dusty
up.
Baker.
Yeah, who's who's lining
Maybe
up?
they trade. Okay, so
Dusty Baker for Joe Girardi.
Let's talk about Game 2 of the World Series
Yes.
the other night. Was that one
Kept
of
me
the
up
best?
late.
Was that one of the best World Series you've seen in a while?
It was one of the best
games?
World Series games I've seen in a while. Yeah, I mean, imagine 3-1 going into the 8th, and it winds up 7-6.
I know, with all the
11.
extra-
Incredible.
Dodgers. Are the Dodgers going to win this?
No, I don't think so.
Really?
like a different language.
You think
I
the
don't.
Astros are a team
Don't
of
care.
destiny?
I think the Astros
do
are a
this.
team of
Do you
destiny.
really?
It goes on
Yeah,
forever.
I do. I think they're a
Astros,
team
yeah.
of destiny.
That
You
would
love
be-
this.
No,
Come
I
on.
don't. No, I don't.
Come on.
It's so stupid.
It's America's pastime.
You're talking about nothing.
So I've
It's
gotta
just
say-
mumbo jumbo.
My goodness. Mumbo jumbo. I haven't heard that in a long time.
And finally,
I love being around this table with mumbo jumbo being thrown. It's great.
This is one for the tapes. If Girardi goes to Washington,
Yes.
will the Nationals win a World Series in the next 2 to 3 years?
No.
Really?
No,
Why not?
because the Nationals players just can't win the big one, Joe.
And they
just can't.
By the
their
way-
leading player does not make other players better. He is not a winner, Bryce Harper.
You know, the Boswell wrote a great column about the Nationals, one of the most talented teams in baseball.
Yeah.
He said they don't hate losing enough. And for you to win,
You got to hate to lose
have
more.
to hate losing.
And Matt Wieters behind the plate, please. I wouldn't let him box my groceries.
Yeah.
Let alone catch the ball behind the plate. Did you see that performance?
No.
As a former catcher?
Oh, my God.
Disgusting.
I know.
Terrible.
All right. Governor
Terrible.
Chris
Mickey, you
Christie.
loving this?
Idiots. All right, Chris
Thank
Christie,
you so much.
you.
Dodgers
Yeah.
But the
won by a
Nationals that way? That's
Please.
terrible.
Do you know the Dodgers won by a touchdown?
Shut up. All right, still ahead this morning, Donnie.
We're going to get the hate mail the rest of the day.
The ranking
But enjoy
member
them.
of the House.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.